It's a long, dusty journey to the desert community of Jigalong. The grandmothers are responding to a cry for help.
The fact that it's still happening now, and it's happened since the apology and increased since the apology, it's Australia's great shame. We want grandparents to be recognised as the people who can take on the care of these children.
Sue Ellen Tighe is a founding member of Grandmothers Against Removals. She helped set up the group in northeastern New South Wales to try to reduce the high number of Aboriginal children being taken into care. She's a long way from home today, but she says the issues are the same.
They think that the white way is the only way to parent kids, but you and your community and your families, you know how to best to look after your kids.
During the growth, all our kids take. Our oldest son was what? He's 22 this year. She never had a part of his life.
For the Martu people who live in several communities across the Pilbara, this is a painful subject. Elder Heather Sampson says too often the children end up with white carers and become estranged from their family and culture.
Our kids are really missing out on the love of the families, the communities, and the language and the culture that we wanted to show them.
To understand the despair, you have to understand the history. The Stolen Generations movie Rabbit Proof Fence told the story of 3 girls taken from Jigalong to a native settlement north of Perth in the 1930s. For today's older generation of Martu, who were themselves brought up on a mission, not much progress has been made.
Stolen generation never end. They think it is changed, but nothing. I don't believe it.
According to the most recent figures, there are nearly 15,000 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children in care across Australia, and that's about 6 times the number that were in care when the Bringing Them Home report was released in 1997. In WA, Indigenous children are 15 times more likely to be in care than their non-Indigenous counterparts, 12 times more likely in Victoria and 9 times in New South Wales. Across the nation, the reasons for removal are complex, but substance abuse and poverty are key factors.
You go into Aboriginal communities and you see clear indicators of real poverty, substandard housing, crowded housing. It's hard living. And when child protection agencies go in, they see hard living, and then they classify them as parents who aren't able to look after their kids, and they classify it as neglect.
When you talk to people who haven't...
New South Wales Greens MP David Shoebridge has been supporting the grandmothers with their campaign.
Aboriginal people are the subject of enormous oversight by police, constant policing. And with that constant policing comes constant interaction with housing and constant interaction with child welfare. They're constantly being observed.
The Association of Social Workers agrees there's a high level of scrutiny, but says child protection officers are legally bound to keep children safe.
Neglect can be fatal. Neglect is a very serious form of harm to children and can result in long-term physical, emotional and cognitive harm.
And WA's Child Protection Minister says children are only removed from their families as a last resort.
We know that the very best arrangement for children is to be with their family in a community connected to their culture. Where that can't happen, even after all of the safety planning that we would put in place and all of the programs that we would put in place to support a family, if that child is not safe, then we will have to be involved.
But at the meetings in Jigalong and nearby Newman, families voiced their frustrations about a system they say fails to adequately recognise the alternative carers within their culture.
In white families, they have that nuclear, and if the parents die, the kids are left orphans. That's not the case. When a child is born into our families, they immediately have several mothers and several fathers. So that responsibility has been there for thousands and thousands of years to automatically be able to care for that child if the parents aren't around,
Karen Healy says a large percentage of Aboriginal children are placed with relatives, but she says there should be more support for struggling families.
Currently, in many states of Australia, the expenditure on prevention services is very low. A recent Queensland study, for example, found around 15% of service expenditure was on prevention, and the remainder was on later intervention.
Sorry, come off it! Our children are not for profit!
The grandmothers have reached an agreement with authorities in New South Wales. It gives Aboriginal people a greater say on the welfare of children through local advisory groups.
The strength of that document is that the power and the control lay with community.
The Martu people are hoping for something similar and have delivered the document to their local Department for Child Protection. The approach has merit, according to the Association of Social Workers.
It is notable that in the history of Australian child welfare that often welfare services do create interventions for and about Aboriginal people, but have not adequately engaged them in finding solutions that work within their families and their communities.
This story's right, this story's true.
The grandmothers are keeping the pressure up, rallying in Canberra this week to coincide with the anniversary of the apology to the stolen generations. But it's the future they're focused on. They want to be part of the solution.
If Aboriginal communities can be supported and be empowered to take on these issues that face not only Aboriginal communities but Australia as a whole, that we can see change and see change happening.